Welcome back to the deep dive. This is it, the final part of our three-part exploration into the paradoxical cosmos, syncretic pathways from source to self.
That's right.
If you've been with us, you know we've journeyed through some truly expansive ideas.
Definitely.
Our initial deep dive explored foundational principles, the very nature of reality itself. Then the second part really delved into cosmic structures and the profound journey of the soul.
Yes, setting the stage for where we're going now.
Exactly. So today we're diving into sections 31 through 45. These bring together the evolving self, practical gnosis, and crucially, the skills you need to navigate the, let's face it, information-rich spiritual landscape we find ourselves in. Our mission, as always, is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sections, help you feel well-informed about their profound ideas, maybe with a few surprising facts, and just enough humor to keep you hooked.
Hopefully.
This is the culmination, really, offering actionable tools for embodied gnosis and, importantly, critical discernment.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these later sections of the report shift. They move from this, theoretical cosmology we discussed earlier to very practical applications.
Right.
They offer a kind of roadmap for personal transformation, and they give you crucial methods for distinguishing, authentic spiritual development from the many misleading paths out there.
That's so needed today.
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about understanding not just how we evolve, but how to effectively navigate that evolution in an age just brimming with information and, frankly, misinformation.
Okay, so where do we begin this final ascent? The report kicks off by painting this, truly grand picture of human destiny, stretching across vast cosmic timelines. It's not just about us now, is it?
Not at all. It suggests a much larger story. Section 31 goes into Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy, which describes human evolution as this incredible journey through 7 planetary spheres.
7 spheres.
Wow. Yeah. Think old Saturn, old Sun, old Moon, then our current Earth, and future stages like new Jupiter, new Venus, and new Vulcan. Each sphere shapes a distinct aspect of the human body system, from the initial sort of mental body aspect on old Saturn to a fully spiritualized mental body way down the line on new Vulcan.
So it's not just a straight line forward.
No, not linear at all. It's more like a rhythmic dance. A descent into matter, you could say, from Saturn through to our current Earth epoch, and then an ascent back up, evolving through these future stages.
Okay.
And the report also mentions briefly an esoteric concept of an 8th sphere, kind of a realm of dissolution for beings or forces out of alignment with this main evolutionary current.
Interesting sideline. So within our current Earth epoch, you mentioned stages too.
Exactly. 7 sub-epochs, each marking a distinct phase in the development of individuality and consciousness. We're talking ancient phases like the Polarian, Hyperborean, Lemurian, and Atlantean eras.
Names you hear in esoteric circles.
Right. Then comes our current post-Atlantean epoch, which we're in now. And Steiner projected 2 future sub-epochs, which he termed the American and the Russian.
And across these huge timescales, what kinds of changes are we talking about?
Profound transformations. For example, the report details how humans were initially genderless. Sexual differentiation only emerged gradually during the Lemurian era.
Really?
Yeah. And similarly, our third eye, once supposedly a faculty for direct spiritual perception, receded as our physical eyes developed and our focus shifted more towards the material world.
So like a trade-off.
In a way. And these weren't sudden mutations, like X-Men style. They were slow, collective transfigurations over millennia. Lifespans also apparently contracted significantly as we became more deeply embedded in matter.
So as individuality became sharper, that direct spiritual perception declined. It sounds almost like a loss.
It can seem that way. But the report highlights something really intriguing about the Lemurian era. It suggests that while less mentally developed perhaps, Lemurian humans possessed this vivid clairvoyance stemming from a strong group soul cohesion.
Group soul.
Yeah.
Like a collective consciousness.
Sort of, yeah. And the report provocatively draws parallels to modern animal abilities. Think about coherent precognition in migrating birds or shared instinctual awareness in schools of fish.
Okay, I see the parallel.
It challenges that simple linear view of evolution, doesn't it? It suggests spiritual faculties might ebb and flow following these grand cycles, and maybe ancient abilities could even reemerge in new forms.
That's a profound way to think about our journey through time. And it leads straight into this idea of us being multi-layered beings. The report talks about 7 subtle bodies.
Yes, sections 32 and 33 dig into this. It's the idea that we're far more than just our physical form. There's the physical body, obviously, then the etheric body, which is about vital energy, life force.
Like chi or prana.
Exactly, very similar concepts. Then the astral body, dealing with emotions, desires, dreams, the mental body for thought and intellect. Then we go deeper.
Deeper how?
Into realms less tied to everyday experience. The causal body, linked to karma and soul memory, like the repository of our deeper experiences across lives. Then the Buddhic body, intuition, wisdom, a sense of unity. And finally, the atmic body, representing divine will, our core spiritual identity.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. What's the practical takeaway from knowing about all these layers?
Well, it helps you understand why certain practices work. Meditation might calm the astral body, energy healing might work on the etheric, insight practices might develop the mental or Buddhic. It also shows how different traditions, theosophy, Vedanta, anthroposophy, often map onto the same basic structure, even if the names change slightly.
So it provides a kind of unified framework.
Precisely. And it underscores that growth or healing on one level inevitably impacts the others. It makes personal transformation a truly holistic thing.
Okay, and building on that, the report brings in another ancient map, the Kabbalistic tree of life. How does that fit in?
Section 33 presents the Tree of Life as a fundamental map for consciousness and the soul's ascent. It connects the Hebrew soul levels to the Sephirot, the spheres on the tree.
Can you give an example?
Sure. So Guf, the physical body, maps to Malkuth, the lowest sphere representing the material world. Nefesh, the vital soul, connects to Yesud. Ruach, encompassing spirit, emotions, the moral sense, relates to Tiferet, the heart center.
Right.
And it continues up through Neshama, higher intellect, intuition, to Bina, Chaya, life force will, to Chokma, and ultimately Yashida, pure divine unity, to Keter, the crown.
So ascending the tree is like ascending through levels of your own soul.
That's the idea. Each Sephira represents a state of consciousness, a cosmic principle. The tree isn't just a diagram of the universe, it's a map of your potential spiritual journey back to the source.
As we journey through these subtle realms, though, it sounds like it's not always smooth sailing. The report talks about guardians of the threshold. What are these? They sound intimidating.
They can sound it, but Section 34 explains them through Rudolf Steiner's lens. They aren't external monsters, but more like archetypal encounters that mark key points on the path.
Encounters with what?
Primarily with yourself. The Lesser Guardian is basically the sum total of your personal unresolved stuff, karma, your shadow aspects, fears, attachments. It demands really honest self-assessment, like looking in a very clear, unavoidable mirror.
Ouch. Okay. And the greater guardian.
That's encountered later at more advanced stages. It represents the collective karma and shadow of humanity, the weight of human history, and your responsibility within the larger cosmic scheme. It tests your humility and your capacity for selfless service.
So these guardians, you don't fight them? You mentioned self-assessment and responsibility.
Exactly. That's the key insight the report stresses. They aren't foes to be destroyed, but aspects of yourself or the collective to be understood, confronted, and integrated.
Why integration, though? Why not just push past?
Because trying to destroy them would be like trying to destroy part of yourself or deny reality. They are aspects of the journey. Integrating them means you're not just overcoming an obstacle, you're becoming more whole, more ethically mature. It's an initiation.
That reframes challenges completely. Does the report connect this to other ideas?
Oh, yes. It draws clear parallels to Jung's concepts of the personal and collective shadow. Also to the Gnostic idea of archons, sometimes seen as inner obstacles or forces of ignorance. Even mythic figures like Cerberus guarding the underworld or the Sphinx asking riddles, they function as threshold guardians.
Gatekeepers.
Right. And the greater guardian's call to universal responsibility echoes things like the Bodhisattva vow in Buddhism or the archetype of the Christos taking on collective burdens.
So if these are the challenges, how do we equip ourselves? You mentioned the report offers practical tools.
It does, absolutely. Sections 35 and 36 are packed with them, covering what the report calls deepening the path of return and practical gnosis. It looks at both ancient and modern methods that use altered states as gateways.
Like what kind of methods?
Well, things like sound bath meditations, using resonance to shift consciousness, or theta-induced meditation like yoga nidra, which brings you to that twilight state between waking and sleeping, great for accessing intuition. Then there are more technological approaches. Binaural beats and hemisync use specific audio frequencies to entrain your brainwaves toward states conducive to, say, focus, relaxation, or even out-of-body experiences.
I've heard of those. And light, too.
Yes. Hypnagogic light entrainment devices, the report mentions Lucia and Degrees O3 and Pandora Star use flickering light patterns. These can stimulate the brain to produce vivid inner imagery, deep relaxation, sometimes even states of ego dissolution. It's like a modern way to induce trance states that ancient cultures used drumming or chanting for.
Fascinating. But the report also talks about, well, more direct chemical aids, right?
Yeah.
Sacred substances.
It does. Section 35 explores this quite extensively, looking at both ancient and modern psychoactive sacraments. It discusses the idea of universal sacred substances, sometimes called manna, soma, or the nectar of the gods, across different cultures.
So, specific examples.
Oh, yeah. It details things like the ergot fungus, potentially used in the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece. Amanita muscaria, the red and white mushroom.
The fairy tale one.
That's the one. Linked to Siberian shamanism, maybe even some Santa Claus folklore, though the report urges extreme caution with its modern use due to toxicity. Then psilocybe mushrooms, the flesh of the gods for Mesoamerican cultures, brought to Western awareness by figures like Maria Sabina and Gordon Wasson.
Right, peyote and San Pedro, too.
Yes, containing mescaline. Morning glory seeds containing LSA. It covers the traditional use, the active compounds, the typical effects, and their spiritual significance.
And more modern ones.
Definitely. Ketamine is discussed for its dissociative and visionary states. 5-MeO-DMT from the Sonoran desert toad, known for inducing rapid experiences of mystical unity. LSD, famously synthesized by Hoffman but explored by Shulgin. Even acacia tree bark incense, possibly used in ancient rituals with MAOIs to make DMT orally active.
Ayahuasca fits in there.
Absolutely. The grandmother psychedelic from the Amazon, ibogaine, the grandfather from Africa, known for life reviews. Vaporized DMT and changa, intense and rapid versus smoother, longer experiences. Even high-dose cannabis as an onarogen, meaning dream-inducing. And MDMA for their empathogenic qualities, also explored by Shulgin.
It's quite the catalog. Does it categorize them?
It does. Broadly, tryptamines like DMT and psilocybin, phenethylamines like mescaline and MDMA, dissociatives like ketamine, and neurogenics like cannabis. It highlights salvia divinorum as unique, causing strange effects like time loops or feeling merged with objects, which connects to ideas like panpsychism.
Panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is everywhere.
In everything, yeah. The report then brings up this really interesting philosophical paradox, the idea of a state also being a place.
How does that work? Sounds mind-bending.
It is. Think about Gnostic cosmology, where the pleroma is both the realm of divine fullness and an internal state of unity. The report uses a metaphor. If you have a cake and divide it infinitely, you still have the whole cake, just differentiated. Differentiation doesn't destroy the underlying unity.
Okay.
So altered states can blur that line between feeling a certain way internally and feeling like you're in a different place or dimension. It suggests our inner world might be vastly more expansive, more special than we usually think.
And that connects to sensory deprivation.
Right. John C. Lilly's work with flotation tanks is mentioned. By minimizing sensory input, these tanks facilitate deep relaxation and altered states. Lilly even experimented combining floating with ketamine, exploring consciousness, and trying to communicate with dolphins.
Wild stuff. So, beyond substances and tech, what about specific exercises or rituals?
Section 36 gets very practical here. For developing the psychic and astral bodies, it describes rituals from the Western esoteric tradition. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the LBRP.
I've heard of that one. For protection.
Cleansing and protection, primarily. Creating sacred space. Also, hexagram rituals for attuning to planetary or cosmic forces. The star ruby ritual from Crowley's system for empowerment and alignment. And Merkaba meditation.
Merkaba.
What does that mean again?
Spirit light body, roughly.
Yeah.
It involves visualizing interlocking geometric shapes, tetrahedra, around the body. The goal is often described as integrating masculine-feminine energies, animate animus, and creating a vehicle for multidimensional exploration.
Okay. And breath work.
Crucial. Holotropic breathwork, developed by Stan Grof, uses deep, rapid breathing to access unconscious psychological material, often leading to emotional release and healing. And Tumo breathing, from Tibetan traditions, famous for generating internal body heat, but fundamentally about mental control and energy manipulation.
And specific psychic development exercises. Yes, things like energy breathing to cultivate and circulate vital energy. body scanning to increase awareness of the subtle body, and various astral projection preparation techniques. The report mentions the hallway method, the rope method, the roll method, all designed to help you consciously separate your awareness from the physical body, often starting from the vibrational stage.
Mm-hmm. Dream work, too.
Definitely. Especially lucid dreaming, becoming aware you're dreaming while dreaming. It's seen as a prime training ground for navigating non-physical realities.
And Castaneda's assemblage point.
Right. The idea that our awareness is focused or assembled at a specific point in our energy field, shifting this point, Castaneda argued, fundamentally alters perception and allows access to non-ordinary reality or different worlds.
This is a massive toolkit. The report also adds a note about common substances, doesn't it? How they can interfere.
It does. A practical warning, really. It explains how things we often consume daily, caffeine, alcohol, even cannabis in some contexts, chocolate, nicotine, can potentially disrupt the brain's natural harmonic states, the delicate brainwave patterns needed for deeper spiritual practice.
Like static on the radio.
Exactly. A signal-to-noise problem. These substances can introduce noise that makes it harder to tune into subtle energies or achieve clear, stable states of consciousness. So the advice is, if you're serious about deep practice, consider minimizing their use to get a clearer signal.
It's fascinating how this all weaves together ancient wisdom, modern techniques. The report then explicitly connects these esoteric ideas to more contemporary thought, right? Section 37.
Yeah, esoteric and semi-modern perspectives and interconnections. It bridges the gap really well. It talks about hermetic orders like the Golden Dawn and BOTA, which systematize things like the Tree of Life and archetypal work.
And chaos magic. That sounds different.
It is, in approach. Chaos magic treats belief itself as a flexible tool, emphasizing practical results over rigid dogma, drawing heavily on that core hermetic idea, all is mind.
It also mentions John Dee again.
Yes, Dee and Edward Kelly with their Enochian magic, this complex system of supposed angelic communication. The report flips that speculative link again. Could their visionary experiences have been related to something like endogenous DMT or even external substances? We don't know, but it's provocative.
And figures like Crowley and Dion Fortune.
Absolutely. Crowley's thelema focused on discovering and living your true will through magic spelled with a K to differentiate it from stage magic is explored. Dion Fortune's work is highlighted for its practical focus on psychic self-defense and understanding the etheric and astral fields, really pioneering in that area.
Blavatsky and Steiner come up again, too.
Of course. Blavatsky's theosophy, aiming for this grand synthesis of world religions and philosophies, emphasizing universal brotherhood, karma, reincarnation, and hidden masters guiding humanity. And Steiner's anthroposophy, presented as a spiritual science, focusing on human and cosmic evolution, the significance of the Christ event, and those guardians we talked about.
Okay, so that covers the esoteric lineage.
Yeah.
How does it connect to modern science or parapsychology?
This is where it gets really compelling. The report highlights Dean Radin's work at ION NS providing experimental evidence for psi phenomena like telepathy and precognition, suggesting consciousness isn't just locked inside the skull.
Non-local consciousness.
Exactly. It mentions Mark Stavish's work on egregores, those group thought forms that can take on a life of their own, and Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic fields and morphic resonance.
Morphic fields, that explains things like simultaneous invention.
That's one of Sheldrake's key examples, yeah. How similar ideas pop up independently around the world. His theory suggests these fields carry information non-locally, shaping form and behavior. The report even links this back to Steiner, suggesting maybe animal precognition, explained by Sheldrake's fields, mirrors those group soul faculties Steiner described in Lemurian humans.
Wow, that's a connection. And then the psychological dimension. Gurdjieff Young.
Right. Gurdjieff's fourth way is discussed his emphasis on self-remembering to wake up from our habitual sleep, using tools like the Enneagram and the laws of 3 and 7. He aimed to deactivate the brain's default mode network, basically our autopilot mind, to achieve higher consciousness.
Then boom.
Jung is presented as deeply influenced by Gnosticism. He saw Gnostic myths as powerful archetypal maps of the psyche. His whole process of individuation integrating the shadow, animanimus, is framed as a modern path to gnosis, to self-realization.
Leading to modern Gnostic psychology.
Yeah, which interprets figures like the demiurge or archons not as literal cosmic beings, but as psychological forces, inner patterns of ignorance, limitation, or collective conditioning. Gnosis then becomes the psychological awakening to your true, deeper self.
So despite different languages, there's a common thread of waking up from fragmentation.
Absolutely. The report includes a table comparing how Gurdjieff, Steiner, Jung, classical Gnosticism, even Sheldrake view the cause of our sleep or ignorance and the path to awakening. And interestingly, even the adversarial forces, Gurdjieff's mechanicality, Steiner's Ahriman and Lucifer, Jung's shadow, Gnostic archons, are often seen, paradoxically, as necessary catalysts for growth and evolution.
It feels like mainstream science often struggles with these ideas. The report tackles materialism head-on with this term, smallism.
It does in Section 38. Smallism is defined as that reductionist view, the idea that reality is best understood by breaking it down to its smallest parts, that everything emerges from the bottom up.
The opposite of holistic.
Pretty much. It contrasts the typical Big Bang interpretation, something from nothing, with the thesis's perspective, which is more like something from everything, a monistic or holistic view where consciousness is primary. Materialism, the idea that only matter is real and mind is just a byproduct of the brain, aligns perfectly with smallism.
And the report disagrees fundamentally.
Completely. It advocates for a consciousness-centered metaphysics. It argues that smallism and materialism are basically philosophical dogmas that science will eventually outgrow as it converges more with spiritual insights.
It also differentiates types of panpsychism.
Yes, it distinguishes micropsychism consciousness in the smallest particles, which still kind of fits with smallism from cosmopsychism, the view the thesis leans towards, that the universe as a whole is conscious, like one vast mind.
Okay, now the report also takes issue with Ken Wilber's integral theory, which is pretty influential. Where do they diverge? Section 39, right?
Yes, Section 39 lays out several key divergences. First, the nature of spirit. Wilber often presents spirit as sort of equally present everywhere, maybe the passive background. The thesis argues the source is more like a concentrated, conscious, willful intelligence at the origin, with varying levels of involvement in creation.
A more active source.
You could say that. Second, the pre-trance fallacy. Wilber tends to categorize things like magic or mythic consciousness as pre-rational stages to be transcended. The report strongly disagrees.
How so?
It argues that ancient magical traditions contain sophisticated wisdom and can actually express transcendent or primordial truths. It calls for a rehabilitation of magic, essentially, refusing to dismiss it as merely immature.
That's a significant difference. What else?
Linearity versus cycles. Wilber's model generally depicts consciousness evolving in a linear, upward direction. The report insists the cosmos follows cyclical or spiral patterns. Think of yuga cycles or hermetic cosmology. This allows for periods of decline, lost knowledge, spiritual regression, things a purely linear model struggles with.
Like the idea of a golden age followed by decline.
Exactly. It uses the story of the Buddha silently holding up a flower as an example of direct, intuitive realization gnosis, which isn't built up incrementally, but grasped whole. It also criticizes what it sees as Wilber's tendency to reduce mystical experiences primarily to stages of psychological maturation.
As opposed to
authentic gnosis being an ontological event, a direct participation in deeper realities, not just a change in your psychology.
And the report uses ancient wonders as evidence against Wilber's view.
It does. It points to things like the Great Pyramids, embedded mathematics, or even the esoteric symbolism apparently built into Washington, D.C., or the dollar bill, suggesting advanced knowledge encoded in ways Wilber's model might dismiss as mere developmental relics.
Like the Statue of Liberty as Lucifer. That's bold.
It is provocative. The report argues these symbols encode deep esoteric truths. It also points out that many highly intelligent, influential people throughout history, Isaac Newton, John Dee, even rocket scientist Jack Parsons, were deeply involved in occult practices, suggesting these aren't signs of immaturity, but potential sources of creativity and insight.
Okay, shifting back to that ancient wisdom, the report presents really compelling evidence that ancient civilizations knew far more than we typically credit them for. Scientifically, too.
Absolutely. Sections 40 and 41 are dedicated to this. Section 41 focuses on scientific evidence of lost higher knowledge. We mentioned the Great Pyramid encoding pi, the golden ratio, Euler's number.
And the Dogon knowing about Sirius B.
Right. An invisible white dwarf star, known with accuracy centuries before modern astronomy confirmed it. It just defies conventional explanations of knowledge transmission.
Incredible. And engineering feats.
Oh, yeah. Megalithic sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru with those massive stones fitted perfectly without mortar, or Baalbek in Lebanon with foundation stones weighing 800 tons. How did they move and place them with such precision? We genuinely don't know.
Lost technology.
It seems likely. The report mentions artifacts like the Antikythera mechanism, that complex ancient Greek analog computer for tracking celestial cycles, the Baghdad battery, possibly an early electrochemical cell, evidence of ancient optical instruments, and it laments the destruction of libraries like Alexandria, hinting at vast amounts of lost scientific and technical knowledge.
And beyond just tech, what about lost abilities, Section 40?
Yes, the forgotten science of spirit. This explores practices that were apparently systematically developed. Ritual magic, like Egyptian Heka seen in spells and amulets, or Greek and Roman Defixionis curse tablets.
Okay, healing and divination.
Definitely. The Deltic oracle giving prophecies in trance states. Dream incubation temples where people sought healing or guidance through induced dreams. Shamanic practices involving conscious astral projection or soul flight. Even non-local communication, citing things like Aboriginal dreamtime connections over vast distances.
And these weren't just random.
The report argues they were sophisticated spiritual technologies, professionally practiced, not just primitive superstition, but applied sciences of consciousness.
So why did we lose this knowledge?
A combination of factors, according to the report: active suppression by dominant religious or political powers, destruction of knowledge centers like Alexandria, and the eventual rise of philosophical rationalism and materialism, which increasingly dismissed or ignored anything non-physical.
It really makes you reconsider the limits of human potential, past and present.
It does, and the report doesn't stop in the past. Section 42 brings up modern scientific and philosophical breakthroughs, or just plain anomalies that seem relevant to these spiritual claims.
Intriguing examples.
Well, the Shroud of Turin is mentioned. Its image formation is still scientifically unexplained. Suggestions of radiation or light without heat, no paint found. Eucharistic miracles, where consecrated hosts have allegedly transformed into human heart tissue, type AB blood, documented in some cases with modern analysis.
Whoa. Okay, what else?
Crop circles, noting the physical anomalies often found, like bent stalks and electromagnetic effects, regardless of who or what creates them. Psi research results, like the Gansfeld studies for telepathy, showing statistically significant effects that challenge pure materialism.
Consciousness affecting matter.
That's the implication. Dr. Masaru Emoto's controversial water crystal experiments, suggesting intention influences water structure. Cleve Baxter's polygraph tests on plants, seemingly showing reactions to thoughts or threats.
I remember hearing about those. What about memory?
Non-local memory concepts. Experiments with planarian worms retaining learned behaviors after regeneration. The anecdotal 100th monkey effect. And the DMTX studies we mentioned, with participants reporting consistent encounters with intelligent entities in hyper-real environments.
Really pushing boundaries. Any others stand out?
The Tibetan rainbow body phenomenon accounts of adepts dissolving their bodies into light at death. Ezekiel's wheels from the Bible, compared with modern telescopic footage of strange, wheel-like aerial objects. Mysterious handprints or footprints found embedded in solid rock, seemingly ancient.
Miraculous paintings.
Our Lady of Guadalupe has discussed the tilma's strange preservation, the image seemingly floating above the fabric, microscopic details in the eyes, constellation patterns on the mantle. Leonardo da Vinci's mirrored paintings revealing hidden images.
And documented miracles.
The Lourdes Medical Bureau gets a mention, its rigorous investigations, resulting in 70 recognized cases of medically inexplicable healings, like Gemma DiGiorgi reportedly gaining sight despite having no pupils.
That's hard to dismiss.
It is. Also, transformative after effects people experiencing NDEs, lightning strikes, comas, even organ transplants, sometimes acquiring new abilities, personality shifts, or unexplained knowledge, hinting at things like cellular memory, even advances in dream science, like using fMRI and AI to decode dream imagery.
Okay, my head is spinning slightly. With all this, ancient knowledge, modern anomalies, altered states, how on earth do you navigate it all? Discernment must be key. Section 45.
Absolutely crucial. Section 45 tackles practical discernment methods, acknowledging the sheer volume of conflicting teachings out there today. It highlights the need for active discernment, not passive acceptance.
And it issues some specific warnings.
It does, quite strongly. It discusses dangers in some New Age channeling and what it calls galactic alien narratives. It references people like Doreen Virtue and Gigi Young, who observed a shift after Roswell channeled entities changing from historical masters or yogis to predominantly aliens.
Why the concern?
The report warns about false light beings, potential psychological delusion, and teachings that subtly promote spiritual bypassing, avoiding the hard work of growth, or even hedonism and what it terms Luciferic principles. Self-deification, solipsism, the idea that only your consciousness is real. It suggests bias can creep into platforms that heavily feature such content, mentioning Gaia TV as an example needing discernment.
And it names specific channelings as suspicious.
Yes, explicitly, the Law of One material and the Seth channelings.
Why those? They're quite popular.
The report offers specific critiques. For Law of One, it points to failed predictions like the harvest, its role in popularizing the Galactic Federation lore, which it views skeptically, and its polarity system, service to others versus service to self, potentially undermining universal ethics. It also finds its origin story of spirit from nothing conflicts with the thesis's concept of an intelligent source. It notes its influence on some figures later discredited. The concern with Seth, according to the report, is the heavy emphasis on you create your own reality. While empowering on one level, it argues this can lead to a kind of manifestation egoism, seeing others as mere projections and neglecting alignment with universal principles, fostering spiritual bypassing. It sees similar patterns in both.
Okay. It also critiques multiverse theories.
Yes. The many worlds interpretation of quantum physics or general multiverse ideas, the report calls these atheism in spiritual disguise.
How so?
Because, it argues, if infinite universes exist with every possible outcome, it can lead to nihilism. Nothing ultimately matters. It devalues choice, objective truth, and makes gnosis seem trivial.
It connects this to the meaning crisis.
Right, bringing in philosopher John Vervaeke's work. Vervaeke diagnoses our modern struggle to find meaning after the decline of traditional worldviews. He argues, and the report agrees, that genuine meaning comes through psychotechnologies, transformative practices, contemplative traditions, community engagement, things that foster wisdom and connection, echoing the report's call for practical, embodied gnosis.
So, given all these pitfalls and complexities, what are the practical keys for discernment the report offers? How do you, the listener, navigate this?
It boils down to several actionable points. First, root your discernment in universal principles. Does a teaching align with core values like unity, compassion, freedom, truth?
Okay.
Second, cultivate both inner and outer listening. Trust your intuition, that gut feeling, but also use critical thinking. Check external sources, look for logical consistency, talk to trusted people.
Balance intuition with reason.
Exactly. Third, understand the context.
Yeah.
Where does a teaching come from? Who is delivering it? What might be their agenda or limitations? Fourth, test teachings in practice. Don't just believe it. Try it out. Observe the actual effects on your life, your state of being, your relationships.
Embodied knowing again.
Right. Fifth, seek wise counsel and community. You don't have to figure everything out alone. Engage with others on the path, especially those you respect for their wisdom and integrity. Sixth, integrate your shadow. Be aware of your own biases, projections, wishful thinking. Are you drawn to something because it's true, or because it feeds your ego or avoids difficult truths?
Crucial self-honesty.
Absolutely. And finally, focus on practical consequences. Does a teaching lead to humility, genuine service, integration, and connection? Or does it foster spiritual pride, elitism, division, escapism, or bypassing difficult emotions or responsibilities?
That's a powerful set of guidelines.
The key insight really is that discernment isn't a one-time judgment. It's an ongoing dynamic process. It requires balancing openness to new ideas with fidelity to your own inner truth and those universal principles. It's about integrating paradox creatively, not seeking simplistic answers.
What a journey, seriously. From the grand cosmic evolution of humanity, those vast timelines, down to the intricate layers of our own subtle bodies, then exploring ancient magical practices right alongside modern consciousness research and neurotech.
It covers a lot of ground.
This whole deep dive into the paradoxical cosmos, especially this final part, has really hammered home that constant interplay between unity and diversity, the absolute necessity of navigating our own shadow, individually and collectively, and just how vital discernment is for genuine spiritual evolution today. It's become so clear that true understanding isn't just about piling up facts or exotic theories, it's about integrating them into our lived experience, fostering that embodied gnosis that actually shapes who we are and how we act in the world.
Indeed. And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture one last time, the report consistently paints a picture of the universe not as some dead mechanical clockwork, but as a living, intelligent, deeply conscious cosmos. Which I think leaves a really important question for you, the listener, to ponder. If reality itself, at its core, is fundamentally conscious, what does that imply about your role, your unique spark of consciousness within its ongoing unfolding? And how might really grasping that understanding begin to transform your daily life, your choices, your very sense of self?
Wow. A powerful thought to leave you with as you continue your own deep dive into the mysteries of existence. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration through all three parts.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.